Welcome back to Cherokee Business Radio. I am your host, Joshua Kornitsky, and I've got a great guest here in the studio today. But before I get started, I want to remind everybody that today's episode is brought to you in part by the Community Partner Program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. As I said, I have a wonderful guest here in studio with me today. Her name is Andrea Young. Welcome, Andrea. Andrea is a certified EOS implementer, and she works with entrepreneurial organizations to help them grow and scale their business. Welcome, Andrea.
Thanks, Josh. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you. So let's begin at the beginning. Tell me, really, how did you get started in EOS?
Well, I am a recovering corporate executive. So
Okay.
I spent 20 plus years in corporate America in a strategy, innovation, and marketing side, building brands from scratch, and then launching those out into different various countries. I would also get brought in to turn around divisions that were stuck or
Okay.
had gone into some decline. And in those cases, I would create a new strategy, get the whole team aligned towards it, rowing in that same direction, and execute it. And that turned into massive growth. At the same time, I co-founded a business, an entrepreneurial business, and I got to see how EOS worked. It was a total game changer for that business. We tripled our profitability in less than 12 months, doubled our revenue, and more importantly, we got the entire team really focused in the same direction. So I saw the power of EOS, and so when I decided to leave the corporate space, it was about, how do I help other companies grow? How do I help other leadership teams grow personally and professionally? And that's really where I've been focusing for the last 5 years.
Okay. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me once you saw the power of it. So out of curiosity, I know there's a lot of different business operating systems and methodologies. Was there anything particular about EOS that stood out to you?
Yes, it's the combination of vision plus traction. So it takes theory to a very realistic level of being able to actually execute effectively in a company in the most simplest way. And that is where the magic exists, is being able to identify what your vision is, have the traction, the simple discipline, the tools to be able to actually deliver on that vision, and at the very same time, be able to create a stronger culture by really having your leadership team involved in all aspects of that, from designing the vision to actually making it happen. And that's where the power exists.
And you said a word that I want to ask about. You said this word simplicity.
Mm,
So where does simplicity factor into this? Because when I think about an entrepreneurial business, they're anything but.
yes. You know, complexity is very expensive.
Okay.
And, I worked with a company that had over 900 SKUs, 12 different leaders, 3 different sales departments.
Okay.
And they thought that complexity was their identity. It's just, it's complicated here. And so we really simplified their focus. We simplified their core messaging. And suddenly, profit increased. The team had energy again. Growth became intentional. They were focused on the most profitable SKUs, got into some SKU rationalization, and really just made a healthier organization. Complexity is often a choice, and clarity is always a competitive advantage. So
That's a great
simplicity is key.
perspective. Yeah, I never would have thought of it that way. So does assuming the scale you said you worked internationally in the corporate role in your life, I imagine that made you an expert in complexity. How has that impacted your ability to teach and coach EOS with that background coming out of a very corporate universe?
Yeah. Corporate has the benefit of great structure and accountability, and so
Okay.
I've been able to take that into the entrepreneurial world or entrepreneurial space, because that's where a lot of entrepreneurial businesses or those are the opportunities they're working in. And so being able to boil it down to the simplest elements, being able to make sure that it's very clear who's doing what, who's on first, who's on second. And so that type of clarity and simplicity really leads to better growth and higher employee engagement.
Okay, so let me ask about what I see as sort of the elephant in the room. I understand you're a certified EOS implementer. What does that mean? What do you actually do?
Mm. Well,
And I mean that politely. I just trying
yeah.
to, for anybody hearing this for the first time, I know you said that EOS is this business operating system and methodology, but I want somebody to really be able to grasp and follow.
Yeah. So I would express it like this. I help to bridge the gap between vision and execution. I help leadership teams get out of chaos and into clarity.
Okay.
Most businesses don't have a strategy problem, they have a structure problem. And so I help them implement EOS, which gives leaders a very simple way to get clear on what they're doing, to get the right people in the right seats, and actually execute consistently.
So, I mean, is it a bunch of complicated proprietary stuff? What's the basis for EOS?
Well, it's built off of a framework that Gino Wickman wrote and designed. That is a proven system that's been around for over 15 years, and nearly 300,000 companies are running on
Oh,
EOS.
so it's not just a new idea.
No,
Not the flavor of the month.
not the flavor of the month.
Okay.
I actually ran EOS in the business that I co-founded, and that's where, I've seen it work. I've seen it work personally, and then, of
Right.
course, my clients were just getting traction's really creating results.
That's it's good to know that it's based on something that's been around for a while, sorta been tested, been vetted,
Mhm.
and that you've lived it yourself. That's gotta make a big difference.
Absolutely, 'cause if you can put yourself behind it, then it just creates that much more conviction.
Can you share a story outside of your own organization where
Mm.
you working with someone to implement EOS made a real difference to their business?
Yeah, EOS has the power to do lots of things depending on what you need out of your business.
Okay.
So, whether it's improving people issues or profitability issues or driving revenue or creating some freedom for yourself. And so, one thing that I discovered is a lot of business owners are really facing some big challenges right now. They're growing, but it feels harder, not easier.
Sure.
Their team's busy, but not necessarily aligned, and everything still runs through them. And so I had a client who was working over 80 hours a week and still felt like things were really slipping. We am
That's gotta be incredibly hard
oh,
to give it that much
yes.
and to still feel like you're running behind it,
I mean, he felt like he was nearing burnout,
right?
hadn't taken a vacation in years. And so by implementing EOS, we fixed his system. And most leaders don't need to work harder. They need to work in a system that works. And so EOS was able to transform that for him to give some freedom back. And he took a vacation and spent time with his family, and things didn't fall apart back in the office. They continued to operate very efficiently and effectively without him. And that was a breath of fresh air for him.
It literally must have been game changing.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So as you work with your clients, how do you help them handle some of these tough decisions that they're clearly not accustomed to making? Because it sounds to me like you're elevating their visibility into some of the challenges that they may have been blind to. So how do you help coach them around, say, people problems?
Well, we start with making sure you've got the right people in the right seats.
How do you do that?
We've got a few tools in our toolbox, and so one of the first ones is really understanding structure before getting to people. And
Okay.
so getting clear on, we call it an accountability chart instead of an organizational chart. It's kind of like an org chart on steroids.
Okay.
And that accountability chart acts like a mini job description for understanding what the structure is. What seats do you need to have within the organization to achieve the vision that you want to get to? And so I help them outline the roles for each one of those seats. And then only after we've designed what the right structure is, we look at who are the right people for those seats and evaluate them using a simple tool called the People Analyzer. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do that role? And so by doing so, we're ensuring that we've got the right people in the right seats for that
What
business.
happens when you don't?
That happens all the time. And sometimes you have to make really hard decisions. I had a client who, like a lot of businesses when they first start up, they hire friends, they hire family.
Whoever they can get their hands on.
Yeah. And so when we went through this exercise, it became very clear that the friend in their seat in that seat had the seat had outgrown them.
Okay.
And they just didn't have the ability to help them get to the next level.
So the organization had more needs than that individual could deliver.
More needs.
When you say they outgrew it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so what that meant is she had to make a very tough decision to continue to grow the organization. And so I helped to be the person to put some clarity on that using some of those EOS tools to help her coach her through that process and then to ultimately hire the right person in for that seat.
So I want to ask something that just occurs to me as we're talking. You keep saying coach, and in my brain, I'm thinking consultant. What's the difference between a coach and a consultant? Because you continually use the word coach.
Yes. So an EOS implementer, as an EOS implementer, I play the role of coach, facilitator, and teacher. I'm not a consultant to provide the solutions. The brilliance is in the room. They know their industry, they know their competitors, they know their products and services, the very best. And so my job is to help coach, to help bring out that brilliance, to help them get aligned to what the right answers are, and quite frankly, to kick them in the butts if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, or to give them a high five when things are going well.
Okay, so literally that sideline coach that helps the players improve at the game.
That's right.
So how do you talk to somebody about the individual you're talking about earlier that hadn't been on vacation? How do you convince someone that it's okay to step away and take a break from their business?
Well,
I mean, obviously structure's got to be there. You can't just decide tomorrow you're leaving for a week. But
once we put these systems in place, it gives them some of the comfort. Once you've got the right structure, you're delegating and elevating to the right people.
Okay.
You're measuring how things are working for you and holding people accountable, getting really clear on what the priorities are and improving the communication across the leadership team. That builds the confidence with the owner that they can go away and enjoy family time or get away for a much needed clarity break or vacation. Knowing that things are going well at home. And so once we create that system, then we've got the tools in place to be able to prove it.
When you said earlier it's about having the right people in the right seat, tell me how does that relate to delegation? Because I have to think that's critical before you can delegate, right?
It is. Absolutely. I used to worry about delegating some of the menial tasks or the things I wasn't interested in doing. And what I discovered is that there are people out there that would love to do some of those projects. It's new learning for them. It's exciting for them. That is a bit of an aha to be able to elevate some of that work. Not everybody's built to do the same stuff. And so by delegating out some of the tasks, it gives you better time management, but it also empowers some of your team members to contribute in a better or different way for the company.
That makes really, really good sense, and it was not something that I thought about because delegation's scary, right? Letting go of things is scary. That's why I linked it to having the right people, but it makes perfect sense that if you do have those right people, then delegating is probably a little less scary.
Yeah.
Who's your ideal client? What types of organizations do you work with or is a good fit for EOS?
It's not any one industry. It is rather growth-minded business owners that are ready to level up, that they are more afraid of the status quo than they are of change. And so this helps them to get there. And so you need a leadership team that's open-minded, that's honest, ready to do that. I work with a lot of family-owned businesses and female-owned businesses, as well as really anything from landscaping companies to legal firms. It really works across all different industries and leadership teams. It comes down to that growth mindset being the key component.
So is it a good fit for a startup?
It can be. You need to be, got to a point where you've gotten stuck or need some help really putting the systems in place to grow.
I
So
mean, it sounds to me like those systems are beneficial to the organization overall in any event, right? It's gotta does it help down the road for people that are evaluating investing in that business?
Oh,
It
absolutely. It just helps them to be really buttoned up as an organization. So I have worked with startups of a team of 2, for example, and this helped them to get the funding that they needed for their business because they were buttoned up in terms of where they were going, how they were gonna get there, what the growth plan looked like. So that was helpful. I would say that the typical client, though, tends to be a smaller to mid-sized organization that has gotten to a point where what worked for them before doesn't work for them now, or there's some chaos in the mix, or they're struggling with some of those kind of people challenges that now need to get resolved. There's some elephants. You brought up the word elephants. Elephants in the room.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So, can I ask you kind of a difficult question, but there's a few implementers out there, right?
Mm.
What sets you apart from others when it comes to your approach?
Yeah, 3 things. I am enterprise trained, but entrepreneurial savvy. So having spent all that time in corporate, but then also having run my own businesses, I integrate strength tools, so strength-based training like Working Genius or Clifton Strengths,
Okay.
and I'm really willing to put those issues on the table. So I build a client trust so that we're working in an environment where we're gonna put those elephants in there, and we're gonna tackle them, and we're gonna come up with ideas or solutions. We don't dance around problems, and we solve them.
That must take a great deal of I'm trying to think of a polite word. I'll go with guts to be able to stand your ground on that type of thing to make sure that they're confronting the issues that they have to confront.
Yeah, clarity requires honesty, and that's where the real growth happens. And so we get to a point where that is critical.
It makes sense, but it must be uncomfortable at first.
It can be, but it's also a sense of I think in my experience, the clients who go there get the greatest rewards and become even closer as a leadership team by being open and honest with each other.
It makes sense. It change is hard,
Yeah.
and I imagine you encounter that quite a bit. So if I'm a business owner that's listening to this right now and I'm feeling stuck, you know, what should they do? What are the steps they should take?
Really start by being honest about where you're at. What is your vision? Do you have the right people? What are your priorities? And if you don't, then that's where we need to do some work. And if you didn't, one of the biggest aha moments is that you don't have to do it alone. And so I talk to a lot of business owners that feel like this is all on their shoulders. You don't have to do it alone. And this system, this process is really team based. And that just helps to drive bigger results to get where you've, dreamt of turning that business into.
That makes perfect sense to me. And what's the best way for people to reach you if they want to learn more or gain from your knowledge and experience in helping others?
Well, my business is called Lead Effects, which is all about leadership effectiveness. And
Okay.
the website is theleadeffects.com.
Okay. And we will share that when we post the podcast.
Thanks.
So I appreciate you sharing that with me. One last question that I like to ask everybody. What are some of the assumptions people make about working with you or working with EOS to bring this into their business that might be off track? So you had said earlier that it's simple but not easy.
That's right. Yeah. It is simple, it's not easy. It is, sometimes this identifies people that are not in the right seats, and so often the team that you start with is not necessarily the team you finish with. Um, it, can the waters can be a little muddy at first before it gets clear, but it needs to be as part of change management in order to get where you wanna get to.
I think that that's a perfect closeout and makes it very clear to people that you gotta, what was it Winston Churchill said? The only way to get through hell is to get through hell. And it sounds like that's exactly what this is, that in order to get to the clarity, you gotta swim through a little bit of the muddy water.
Well, we go one step at a time, so,
Well, and I
and I'm
think
here to
that's
help
a
them and to guide them through that process.
and thank you for bringing that up because I think that is a big differentiator that it sounds like while it is a proven path, it's not a race.
No, it is. It is definitely not a sprint. This is a bit more of a marathon, but I have seen teams get results immediately, and it is part of the journey towards getting to their ultimate goal.
Well, thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate you sharing what you shared with us today, and I know I learned a lot. I do want to remind everybody that today's episode is brought to you in part by the Community Partner Program, the Business Radio X Main Street Warriors, defending capitalism, promoting small business, and supporting our local community. For more information, please go to mainstreetwarriors.org. And a special note of thanks to our title sponsor for the Cherokee chapter of Main Street Warriors, Diesel David Inc. Please go check them out at dieseldavid.com. Again, my name is Joshua Kornitsky. I am your host here at Cherokee Business Radio. My guest has been Andrea Young, certified EOS implementer. If you're looking to grow or scale your business, or it sounds like just get it healthier, she's the one to reach to. Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks, Josh.